Just over 2 weeks after outpointing Marcos Maidana, Floyd Mayweather Jr. has a new date for his next fight. I'm Jim Basquiat with the latest ESPN headlines. It's September 13th. Opponent to be determined. We are joined on the phone by ESPN boxing insider Dan Rafael, and we have the date. Dan, we don't have the opponent just yet. What's the significance of putting out the date prior to knowing who he's going to fight next?
Well, one thing Floyd has done for the last couple of fights is they've put those dates out well ahead of time, basically letting fans, letting the media, letting the sponsors, the places that they may try to talk to about putting the fight, although usually they wind up the MGM Grand, potential opponents, whoever might have interest in it, letting them know this is when we plan to go, because everybody knows that Floyd in the business is the 800-pound gorilla. But also what they're doing is they're basically putting a stake in the ground and letting specifically Top Rank and HBO know that this is when they plan to go on pay-per-view, and how, don't think about challenging us with a fight that you may be doing, whether it's a Chavez Jr. fight or something like that. And the reason I say Chavez Jr. is because September 13th is Mexican Independence Day weekend, a very significant date for a Mexican fight.
All right, Dan, so we have the date. There was talk right after the last fight of a rematch with Marcos Maidana. Let's talk about the opponent. Who might be that opponent next up for Floyd Mayweather Jr.?
Well, when I spoke to Leonard Ellerbe about the particular date that they decided that was going to be when he fought, listen, Floyd's always stated that he was going to fight in September.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
had not made the official date known until today. So when it comes to the opponents, I said, well, are you going to do Maidana again? Because that's what they spoke about so much at the press conference after the fight. And what he said was he's in consideration. And by the way, there's a number of other welterweight fighters that are aligned with Golden Boy and or Al Heyman that would fit the mix. Of course, the fight that many of us would want to see, and there doesn't seem to be anything on the calendar that should eliminate it, as the Pacquiao fight, because he just won on April 12th against Bradley. Floyd just won on May 3rd in his fight with Maidana. And
don't tease me, Dan.
Listen, I'm not trying to tease you. I'm just trying to keep it real here. I mean, is there a chance it could happen? Listen, Pacquiao's contract with Top Rank's coming to an end at the end of this year. They're talking about an extension, but I know Pacquiao would like that fight. It's the biggest payday out there. It's the fight the fans want to see. There's no other singular opponent for either guy that anyone's knocking the door down for. There's no Canelo out there that either guy can fight that's going to get everybody jacked up. I mean, it seems like if they could just get together a little bit, it's the perfect situation. It should have happened 3 years ago, but as we stand right now, there's really nothing that should prevent it from happening other than, people want to stick their chest out and prove who's tougher in the boardroom, not in the boxing ring.
Mark your calendar. September 13th, Floyd Mayweather Jr. steps in the ring again. Opponent to be determined. ESPN boxing insider Dan Rafael. Dan, thanks for the insight.
Thank you, Jim.
Again, as Dan touched on, this will be the fourth of a 6-bout deal with Showtime worth some $200 million for Floyd. You can read more about this story right here on ESPN.com. With the latest ESPN headlines, I'm Jim Basquiat.